it wrong, and then sometimes you get it spectacularly wrong. I'd like to talk about two projects we have at the moment today. We've got two highly prospective exploration and development projects both in Tier 1 mining jurisdictions. One's in New South Wales and one's in Mexico, and I'll talk a little bit more about Mexico later on. So we're exposed through those projects to copper and to gold. Gold is the Mexican project, copper is the one in New South Wales. It's actually copper zinc, but the primary economic mineral there being copper. We've got a good board and management who are well skilled in the things that we're looking to do at the moment, which is explore and develop these prospective projects. At the moment, what we're working on is a JORC update on the NI 43-101 resource that exists at the Santa Teresa Gold Project in Mexico prior to commencement of field programs, which I anticipate late Q4, early Q1 next year. And we have the copper project ready to go for drills as soon as we get the permits in New South Wales, which has been a little bit of an ordeal through the COVID period here. We also have quite, I think, an attractive company valuation at the moment, capitalised around about $8 million right now, and we're moving forward to exploration, so should be some interesting news flow coming. Just a quick slide on the board here. I won't talk through too much except to say that all of those photos appear to be around about 10 years ago and 10 kilograms lighter, and that is certainly the case for me. But look, they're a good group of guys, and they're quite hands-on, which is, of course, what you need in juniors. So I'm pleased to be working with them all. Just a quick corporate overview here at the moment. Shares obviously traded down on the COVID issue. We've sort of been in a trend up since then. And what we've done in this period is, obviously it's been a little bit difficult to say the least in terms of travel and getting exploration going outside of WA. But we've been working diligently on M&A programs, which is how we've got a hold of the copper project in New South Wales and also the gold project in Mexico. And we're now positioned after a capital raise that we've just closed, which was for $2 million. Plus we have a $500,000 SPP out there, and that'll provide the funding to drill in New South Wales and to also do initial field work in Mexico. We also have probably around about $400,000 coming in on a R&D credit from the government off our legacy graphite project. So probably all up, somewhere in the vicinity of around about $3 million coming in on top of the cash on hand there. So pretty well positioned for a company of our size in terms of funds to go out and progress these projects. Looking first of all at the Santa Teresa Gold Project. It's in Baja, Mexico. It's a high-grade mesothermal lode-style deposit, so quartz narrow vein gold deposit. There's been some drilling in there in the past, which delineated quite a few good hits, and from that drilling, an initial resource has been produced, an NI 43-101 resource, as I stated previously, of 64,000 ounces. It's capped at quite a conservative. It's capped at quite a conservative. There we go for short people. Much better, thank you. That resource is capped at a quite conservative 20 grams a tonne. And we're working at the moment with an average, so cut-off grade of 4 grams, an average grade of 8.7 grams a tonne. We're working on a JORC update to that at the moment and hope to have that done in the next sort of 2 or 3 weeks. The historical drilling has intersected some very high-grade areas. The highest grade there, of course, was a metre at 958 grams a tonne, which is above 30 ounces a tonne. There are several other drill intercepts above an ounce a tonne and above multiple ounces a tonne. The deposit is open along strike and at depth, and so we have quite a clear path for exploration upside there through further drilling. The system itself is probably and highly likely a part of the same deposit that runs just to the north of our licence boundary there, and you can see just some dark lines in that slide there, which is historical workings on that licence to the north. They mined around about 100 to 200,000 ounces worth of gold. It's a little hard to tell from the historical records, but in the 43-101, it notes in there from some historical records that they were recovering up to 9 ounces a tonne from that mining work up there. So it is a very high-grade area, and we're looking forward to getting out there, doing some more drilling to increase the resource size. With this project, we've also done a deal on stream financing, which we're still working on the final documentation of that at the moment, but it's for initial 6 million and up to 20 million through Raptor Capital Finance International. Those guys are actually also equity holders, so they're, well, Raptor itself is not, but the senior executives at Raptor, who are also the founders of Raptor, are also equity partners in the Santa Teresa project. We've executed the transaction at the moment to give us an initial 50%. We have a right to get up to 100% over 2 years, subject to making a decision to mine, and that is our plan with this, is to drill it out, get the work done that is required to give us the confidence to move into mining and acquire the project 100%. The financing for this is only secured against the Mexican properties, so it doesn't impact our assets in Australia or elsewhere. There is also, it's a relatively underexplored area, and with the licences to the north, with the historical mining there, there's also an ability here for us to increase our land package in the area over time and potentially, you know, add more ounces that way as well. There has been historical drilling on the licence to the north as well. You wouldn't be able to use that in any resource calculation because the core's not available, but we do know what those drill holes intersected, and it's interesting, just like it is on our licence, as you would expect with the historical mining grade up there. So there is an opportunity to expand the land package up there and increase resources through acquisitions apart from drilling. Just a little bit about Mexico. It's the world's, so mining is a big part of the economy in Mexico, and there's a 500-year history of mining in Mexico. It's the biggest producer of silver, the 8th largest producer of gold, and 9th largest producer of copper. The legal and permitting regime over there is extremely favourable for mining. Mining actually has primacy of use for land in Mexico, and that doesn't mean, of course, that you can go out there and just do whatever you want, no matter who's on the land already, but it does set up a framework which is very favourable for permitting of both exploration and mining operations. There are, of course, as I said, major mining operations down there existing, Newmont, Penasquito, and interestingly, in the Fraser Institute of Investment Attractiveness Index, Mexico ranks above New South Wales, Victoria and New Zealand, and in largely due to the legal and permitting regime over there. Mining costs are also favourable, and I think a key point here is that you can repatriate profits out of Mexico very easily, and this is something I think that a lot of people aren't really thinking about when they develop mines in other parts of Latin America or in fact Africa. Nearly no country in Africa and only 2 in Latin America have access to the US Fed for a US dollar facility, and therefore they don't have currency controls around that kind of stuff. So if you make profits in those countries, you can take them out and you don't have to deal with a central bank that may not be wanting you to move the US dollars out. So that's also a very favourable thing operating in Mexico. Looking at our Barabar Copper Project in New South Wales, this is up in the New England region and it's along the Peel Fault. There was a historical mine there. There was actually 2 historical mines, but the most worked one was the Gulf Creek mine, and that operated in the late 19th century and into the early 20th century. When it actually stopped mining, it was due to the mine flooding rather than there being a lack of economic ore to extract. During the mining period there, they mined copper at average grade of 5%. And while zinc wasn't payable back then, zinc was noted in the mining records at being 1 to 1.5 times the grade of the copper. So you could be looking at something there that has an average copper grade of sort of like 7% plus with the zinc credits. The deposit's open along strike and also at depth. When they ceased mining, the lodes were completely open at depth, and a goal of ours in the initial drilling program will be to drill immediately below the historical workings to intersect the 3 known lodes, which are over around about a 30-metre window, 3 parallel lodes there, 2 to 10 metres in thickness. Now, precious metals were also noted in the historical mining records but weren't assayed, so we'll be testing for precious metals as well when we do get on the ground there and drill. And with the exploration plan there, moving on to that, so what we've been doing is we've been digitising all of the historical information. We've got that in Vulcan now. The drill holes are planned to intercept those known lodes, as I said. So whilst this is still exploration work, it's, it's not going out and drilling based off, drill targets identified by, EM, IP or surface geochem analysis. This is, we know where it was mined, we know what the grade was, we know where the historical workings are. We're putting the holes underneath it. Now, nothing's a certainty with exploration, but one would expect that we are going to intercept those historical lodes. We'll then do some downhole geophysics to try and delineate any blind lodes or additional parallel lodes. And we might also carry out some limited surface geophysics, but the initial program is going to be based around that Gulf Creek mine. Should we have success there, we then expand the exploration program, not only around Gulf Creek, but also to go up and have a look at that historical Murchison copper mine as well. So just looking at a calendar of events here moving forward, so in Q3, which we're nearly at the end of course, we want to complete the exploration permitting in New South Wales, and just a little bit on that, New South Wales actually put a moratorium on exploration permits due to COVID, and in particular with our site, it has a native title claim on it, and the inability of native title claimants to meet with their legal counsel during that period. So that has ended now at the end of August. Our permit was already considerably in progress at that stage and is at the top of the pile, so to say. And so we're expecting that we get that permit issued hopefully before the end of this quarter, and that'll allow us to get on the ground in Q3. With Santa Teresa, we've completed that acquisition for the first 50%, and we're looking to execute that stream agreement with Raptor and get that initial JORC resource done there on that project. So then moving into Q4, we want to be on the ground at the Barabar Project in New South Wales drilling, and obviously getting those results out into the marketplace. And we'll do some re-assaying of historical drill core. It's all available there at the Santa Teresa project, and we'll also start planning for the initial drilling up there. Moving into Q1, maybe the drilling is in Mexico in Q1 if we're delayed. So just summing up here, we've got two highly prospective projects. One of them's drill ready, the other one will be drilled shortly afterwards. The valuation of the company at the moment I think is quite attractive. We're at a period right now where we are just pre some major news flow which could contain some big catalysts in there. So I think investment-wise, we're exposed to copper and gold, which are both good places to be. And I think it's worth having a look at Comet. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thanks, Matthew.